FXIR, which is fast healthcare interoperable resources, or FHIR. And when it comes to semantics, which is the language or the vocabulary, like how doctor, for example, in the previous case I mentioned, right, Kaushik had fever and prescribed paracetamol. What if you replace that with the ICD-10 code and whatnot, or RX norm for the drug and whatnot, right? Now, we cannot put this pressure again back to the provider, but what if there are tools that can help you convert this unstructured data into structured data is where I'm going with. So, the first enabler of analysis is interoperability. You build this interoperability among your system and outside your organization, like through ABDM system. So you acquire the data, and after you acquire the data is where you can build analytics. For example, you can enable quality-based indicators to be analyzed and cost-based indicators, and finally you will be able to build predictions on top of it. When you have this capability, is when you will be able to do the interventions. Intervention is where you actually build like virtual care. Like for example, even what if I send a reminder, again contextual reminder, not just about medication, reminder about, hey, you know what, after surgery you have to do certain things. What if I send, educate patients very personalized way to basically follow this protocol, clinical protocol. These are things that is possible only when you have interoperability and analytics in place. So, and how if you look at all the hospitals, and I'm not blaming, it's just how any industry or domain would evolve. If you see, even many technology companies, be it telecom or aviation or any industry, right? When initially we kind of progress, we build data silos. For example, each and every application, like hospital information system, will have its own database. Now, when you're building a data analytics pipeline, then you are actually building a data warehouse with that data only. And there will be another data warehouse for another application, another data warehouse for another application. Now, for a true population health kind of analytics, you should be able to let them talk to each other. It simply doesn't mean that, okay, now I have 10 different data warehouse, I can copy all of them and put into maybe another bigger data warehouse and then query the data. It is a lot of expense for anybody for that matter. That is why if you look at the right side, the modern healthcare data platform advocates lake house or data mesh kind of architecture. Could be data fabric or data mesh kind of architecture, where the data doesn't have to be centralized. The data can still stay in the respective business unit or the application domain cluster, and you build a mechanism of letting your consumers access different data set based on the consent, based on the privacy and whatever the policy that you have on top. This is what we've been broadly helping many customers build this data mesh kind of an architecture. And again, you don't have, now I'm going towards how Amazon is helping in, or AWS is helping in some of this. For example, we have purpose-built tools. If you look at AWS, we historically invested a lot into healthcare industry specifically, and we have a bunch of purpose-built services. And I'll talk about only 3 services today. One is HealthLake. By the way, this service is available in India, which is going to enable any customer to build the Ayushman Bharat integration. Now, HealthLake is a data repository and more that allows you to store FHIR compliant data. Like I told, right, SS7 FHIR is a schematic interoperability standards, and it allows you to store the data in FHIR format, which means you store the data, and it also exposes APIs that are standardized and can connect with any other hospital system or through ABDM also. You don't have to be in the business of creating different API standards and whatnot for your different customers. We are a healthcare startup or healthcare business that want to connect with ABDM, and HealthLake could be a way. Our customers like ECACare, which is a known patient app company that is also using HealthLake to build some of that. It has a lot of capabilities. Couple of capabilities that I want to highlight is, one, it has medical NLP capability, which means if you send unstructured data in a specific document file, it will automatically run the medical NLP. It will understand something like this. For example, in this list, you can see it's totally unstructured data. Like patient is a 62-year-old female, the history of type 2 diabetes and whatnot, right? Now here, if you see in the bottom, you see I would say graph kind of a relationship build. And this is not an illustration. This actually happens in the tool. There is a console where you can see this, wherein it identifies all kinds of entities. It is a named entity recognition plus NLP kind of a model, where it understands the entities, and it also does the ontology linking. Meaning it understands the symptom, the diagnosis, the generic name of the drug, and the time, the duration, route, and everything. And this is exactly how you convert your unstructured data into structured data. Now, HealthLake as a service will allow you to do that by various mechanism and strategy and add the data back. So when you query the data again to your system, you will simply not get the description, but also the structured data. which you can use to build analysis. Again, as a concept, there are so many things that we can actually cover, but HealthLake as a service also help you to normalize your patient data. For example, when a patient walks into a hospital, there are like tens of systems that captures the data of the patient, like prescription system, administrative system, financial system. And let's say they are an inpatient, then the whole lot of administrative tools are all there. Now, this HealthLake can actually acquire data from all these systems at a different time frame in a different frequency. Now, what if it arranges the patient data chronologically for you automatically and also normalizes the data for you? So that is a big problem today that many people are trying to solve, which is automatically solved in HealthLake for you. So when you put the data, HealthLake does all of it for you. So when you query the data back, it automatically is normalized and indexed for you. And it also has a zero ETL pipeline, which means you don't have to convert the data into again analytics friendly format. It converts into Apache Parquet, exposes iceberg table, which means it handles the upset and whatnot use cases. So you can immediately, in near real time, consume the same data, transaction data for analytical purposes. Moving on, this is exactly what I told. The data could be from clinical data and the data could be from other databases. There are tools and mechanisms in which you can combine all those data, query and truly build dashboards. And yeah, these are some of the demos that we have built, which actually calculates the risk for stroke based on certain algorithms that are open source. And it's easy. I mean, you can do it in a few minutes. Actually, I'm not even talking about hours. And moving on, the next is imaging. And imaging also, like we have a purpose-built service that automatically extracts the annotations, tags, and all kinds of metadata from diagram images and builds a data lake for you. And then moving on, we also have something from the genomics or omics world, wherein we have this service that allows you to store, analyze, and also do the workflows. So all the primary, secondary, and tertiary workflows of genomics can also be automated using our purpose-built service, which is called AWS Health. So now putting all of it together, if you see all these services that I talked about, follows a very similar pattern. It takes the format from the healthcare standards, like for example, FHIR, DICOM, and any kind of genomics data, and then it creates a normalized data lake for you. This in turn can be queried or analyzed using our like I would say, analytical tools or AML tools for building applications on top of it. And again, I mean, this is slightly more for enterprise format. How do you actually create like a data mesh architecture? I think today also during open source panel, I talked about how many entities can come together and build like a federated learning architecture. Wherein, for example, let's say 2 universities and a government agency want to collaborate along with the pharma company. And if they want to share the data, it's not that easy. There is so much of privacy and other conflicts that might happen. But what if you actually let the models being trained on the data within their environment and simply send the models in the weight? Collectively, you consolidate all of that and you have like a model with better weight and better inferencing capability. And that's federated learning for you. And it also has better security and privacy advantage, and the accuracy could be better and whatnot. So, that's like basically the next evolution of what this particular slide is all about. So, conversion of structured to unstructured data is key in healthcare. First of all, digitizing the data is key. When you have this, then the ability for you to build machine learning models and everything is even a possibility. With that, let me stop and perhaps open it for Q&A. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sorry, this is like a 2-day talk. I was trying to condense in 20 minutes. I think I shared a slide with 150 slides, and I had to skim it down to maybe 5 or 6. So, anyone, any question before the next session?
Sir, for Amazon EHR,
right.
Sir, is it open source or it is?
I think you're talking about Amazon EMR.
Yeah.
EMR is Elastic MapReduce. Basically, it's an analytics platform. It allows open source tools like, for example, the Hoodie and whatnot and Spark clusters to be provisioned on top of EMR. Just think of EMR as like the capacity, like a cluster that you can provision using open source tool for doing like a big data processing and everything on top of the data. So that's what EMR is. The benefit capabilities that you talked about, how transferable are they to clinical trial data? So data that we collect during clinical trials for risk-based monitoring. Right. So your question is about how transferable, or is it, are you talking about how easy to move the data from HealthLake? Is it how we use, for example, a program like HealthLake to inform decision makers during clinical Absolutely. It is actually meant for purposes like that. See, just think of template being used in a hospital where all the clinical data are standardized to formats like FHIR and in fact ICD-10 and put everything. Now, then what you do is you cohortize your patients. That's how you do clinical trials, right? Now, on the cohort, if you want to query specific patient's detail or specific symptom or a parameter, HealthLink enables you to do all of that. Now, HealthLink simply relies on the data that you're pushing to it. It doesn't add intelligence on top of it. Of course, it adds to NLP, but that's a different intelligence. HealthLink allows you to not only access data for analytical use case, but also transactionally. In near real time, you'll be able to see the data for your analytics. So it's pretty fast when it comes to how quickly you can access the data. And when it comes to standards, it supports semantic and syntactic standards. So pretty much most of everything is possible. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Pratik. But we're only letting you go with the promise that you'll actually do the 2-day workshop for all of us over here. Thank you on behalf of all of us. Thank you, Kaushik. What we have now is a very, very interesting mix of panel. We're going to be talking about AI, analytics, healthcare. But what we have managed to pull off is a very different mix for the panel. Let me start by inviting each of the panelists. I'll start by first of all introducing the moderator for the panel, Dr. Pavani. Dr. Pavani is a pharmacological researcher at Aurobindo. I'm not going to say anything beyond that because my tongue will never twist to pronounce the words that they're actually speaking. I will allow them to introduce themselves in terms of what they're working on. Dr. Pavani, please. May I invite Vamsi Karatam, founder and CEO of deepfacts.io. Some of you would have listened to his talk. What they're doing is I would say groundbreaking work. Fantastic work that they're doing. I was super impressed by the work that they are doing. Vamsi Karatam, thank you for coming over here. And of course, how would I put it? I would have said the brain behind it, but Vamsi said it's the brains behind it. The person with 6 brains, may invite Dr. Avius Suresh. I have no idea how to introduce him. He's an oncologist, he's an innovator, he's an entrepreneur, he's a racer. I don't know what else. Dr. Suresh, thank you for coming over here. He's one of the doctors who can actually program, right? And we have engineers here who cannot program. So just so you know, I am one of those engineers who cannot program. And thank you, Dr. Suresh. As I said, it's going to be a mix of different panels, right? So we have Nagendranath Garu. Nagendranath Garu he's a serial entrepreneur, investor, angel investor. He's a senior advisor at Salomon Advisor Services. He wears multiple hats. He's just coming, from running from a panel discussion where the co-panelist Shobu Yalagadda, Srinivas Mohan, where he wore a different hat. Now he's wearing the hat of the as an advisor for Medicare Logics. He has his feet wet in almost every domain that we can think of. Thank you, Nagendranath Garu, for coming over here. May I invite Dr. Lakshmikant? Shortly I will probably have to call him Dr. Lakshmikant. He's a veterinarian, trained veterinarian, and hence I'm calling him doctor. And he's also finishing his PhD at the IVRI. He works on, again, some names that I cannot pronounce, some virology research and all. Better that they introduce themselves. Another doctor, Dr. Saket Sriram, may I invite him onto the stage. This is easy for me to say. He works on cancer research. I always say, when I say cancer research, it's not cancer causing research, but one day he'll help us, cure research. I've known Sriram for a long time now, when he has always maintained that one day he will find a cure for cancer. I've known him for more than 20 years now. He always maintained that he will work on cancer research. And I hope we'll be able to do this. Dr. Pavani, over to you. May I request that we be done by 4 sharp? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So we had wonderful sessions talking about AI and integration with the healthcare industry. So you are experts from different areas. Dr. Lakshmikant is from veterinary, sir is angel investor, then Dr. Suresh is coming from oncology, then Dr. Sriram. And Vamsi Karatam was integrating the patient and the healthcare. He was working on the bridging them. So I just want to understand what are the problems which you are observing in your respective areas and how technology or AI can solve or address these problems. So can you please explain about that? Dr. Suresh.
Yeah, so one thing that most of the doctors claim is they don't have time, and that's true also because most of them overwhelmed calls for last 8 to 10 minutes. So it's very difficult for us to combine. And one thing that I'm really enjoying nowadays is last 2 years in my hospital is everything is available at the click. We call as an iPad phone that is healthcare, networking, intelligence, some whatever is it called. But still, a graphical and easy presentation is really happening. So I don't call it a very advanced way, but go to the very advanced to also the experience. So making it easy for me. We want to do is the capturing of data. That's where we see when they try to capture data. It's not going to consumers or last talk. Here, the cleaning of data is really challenging, and also it's going to be streamlined in a way that the things get very modern design and taken to the teaching purpose. That's where the most problem is. Actually, I have more helicopter view. I think as an outsider looking in, because I use the healthcare industry as a consumer, I think, and also because of the other hat we wear of helping startups and others, I tell you what it is. There are 5 areas broadly that have got issues. The first area I see is skilling. When I speak to friends in Siemens or all these companies that make medical equipment, even the best of equipment that a hospital can afford, they struggle to find time of the doctors to get trained on it. Forget the other support staff. That's number one. Number two, you already raised the point that for improving quality, the basic is to have clean data so that you can have the right metrics to measure. That itself is a challenge. The third one is operations. Most hospitals all over the world, and especially in India, are actually from doctors to turn entrepreneurs. Their skill is patient care and not in running a hospital. So there is a lot of operational inefficiency that is hidden in the operations of the hospital that directly affects patient. Fourth is governance. There's not much of a governance framework that exists. So that is a challenge as well. Like how do you know hospital A is better than hospital B for somebody to go to? We don't know today. There's no common way to see and there's nobody coming. The last one I see is leadership in this. Most of the leaders we see in this industry are leaders by accident, not by training. They've learned the hard way in life and come up. And now others look upon them as iconic people to be. But there's no system to generate leaderships. So to me, all these areas, except for leadership, which is a very special trait, can be solved by technology and can be solved by AI. And for a country like India where remote diagnostics, remote healthcare, how do you get patients out of the hospital quicker so that the beds can be used for more critical patients? There's so much that can be done. So I think there's enough opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Lakshmikant.
Good afternoon, everyone. Being a veterinarian by nature, I am not that well equipped regarding data and updating and all. But in my view, I see this in a couple of ways. One is that when Sir said that there is no time for doctors, for us we are short of doctors itself in the very remote and ground level when I am talking. So the number of animals, the livestock that is exponentially growing in farm animals, and I am just quoting not the pets, because the economy is majorly driven by livestock agriculture in India. So the amount of availability, there are efficient doctors, but whatever changes and whatever the updates that are happening, let's say I was reading about the AI in diagnostics, right? The infrastructure is very low on a very village level. But if only all this data, whatever they were taken, they were filled, if that can be able to penetrate the very low level places, that would act as a real game changer in the livestock health sector. right? And also on the research side, now I am working and I'm a PhD scholar in National Institute. I am unaware of the AI tools that can be used, right? So I wish there is more of like what we call as an extension program in agriculture, right? So I wish somebody makes us more aware regarding this can be used, that can be used in particular things. So that would make us really a better researcher.
Yeah, that is the one which is lacking, which should be, where Swechha also want to intervene there. Dr. Sriram, what is your opinion?
We do have a huge amount of data. So it's not like we don't have a lot of data. Sometimes it is organized as well. So for example, we had a huge project that was completed in 2007. We have like say 450,000 patient genome samples that have been analyzed completely, total RNA sequencing that has been done. However, we still see like at least 10 to 20,000 research papers that are being still published every year, having a small part of that data coming again from the genome project. What it means is like although we do have a huge amount of data, the interpretation of the data and how we look into the data is still in the preliminary stage. That's what I feel. Like we are still just scratching the surface. So we need a little bit more expertise of how to completely deep dive into the data. Again, we need an integration of scientists as well as the data scientists over here. We need a huge amount of integration to get into deep dive into data. And I feel that is something which is absolutely useful to get out of the smaller issues, whatever we have in the AI, and help in
Like good that you have brought up the issue of whole genome sequencing. Yesterday, Dr. Tangraj was here, who was trying to sequence 10,000 genome from Indian population. So mostly the sequences which you are talking about are from abroad. So the ethnicity is different. So I just want to ask Dr. Suresh, like, is there any diagnosis possible for Indian population based upon the data which is generated from the different ethnicity, and how much of such kind of work was done already, and what is the research going on there, sir?
So again, this question was already brought up in people from the audience. Something very important. What is this? Your genes are very pathogenic, very predictable. I can give a couple of examples, but complex things is BRCA and the breast cancer, which were shown that after a finite point of time, it is likely to be instances of breast cancer. And prevention is not always stopping. So there are 4 levels of prevention, which I want to draw your attention to the audience. Primary prevention means stopping disease to happen. That's what I mean. Secondary prevention is stop the big surgery to happen, big thing to happen. Tertiary prevention is stop the damage of keeping disease to happen on the patient. Whatever disease is wrong, the side effects of keeping disease. So the genomes help in a long way. Not only preventing and predicting what cancer is here. Now using genetic data to see what drug requires what side effect. Because it's not genomics. But is side effect is reversible or not? Whether the drug will act better or not? So which is very unique is the combination of patient, gene, drug, and environment. So this complexity is generally impossible to be solved with a rule-based algorithm. It requires much beyond a very definitely better. And the genomes, if it is done specifically addressing each question and look into is definitely going to be game changer. And we are already implementing in terms of what people to choose, what patients have to be screened, what is 6 months once a year, and how to take clinical decision to how aggressive to go. It is a platform. You can navigate that. Yeah. So whenever we go global collection of data, this is the fair planning. So we say we see the data available, and the data available outside the country, not inside the country. And that we find that data, but it's not going to be accurate enough for things to enough for us to handle because our development is not too safe. So if you go to towards Andhra, we have a different what you said. The data is already come towards Telangana, the other side of Telangana. There may be different the body structure. The data is so here the challenge is that so we don't have a particular repository for the data in the country. So we depend on exactly what some of the databases. But India doesn't have a standardized repository to have it. We find some, but not much. I think 100%. I think we have around 3%, 4%.
Okay, thank you.
I'll pass this question. Some outside my domain of experience.
Yeah.
So, the advantage in genomic sequencing is in US, for example, it has been privatized from the government. So you have this ancestry.com or 23andMe, which does the sequencing for anyone who wants to get that. So you can see ancestry where you are from, how much percentage of black you are, how much percentage of African American you are, Caucasian you are. So when Kamala Harris did that and she said like I'm this thing, and when other people said that, people laugh at it if you don't have a statistical comparison to exactly get whatever it is. But then the important thing over here is that because of this privatization, a lot of people have sequenced their thing. We do have a huge amount of data. Maybe there's a few certain private players you can bring it to the actual code whenever you want it to. But then it has been done over there, and people know like what are the issues with the sequences of say Caucasian or African American. But we don't have that in India, so I'm all for having good sequencing in Indian population, and it definitely helps out to unlock future perspectives of what kind of diseases we are more prone to, and what kind of treatments we are actually favorable for or not favorable for as well. So it helps us out.
Yeah, that's.
Just to add that, we have central also, like IGIT is doing a lot of work, we just make it stand. The problem is libraries, against which you are talking, libraries. So the genomic libraries, we don't have any standard libraries available in India so far. So if the comparison is wrong, your answer is wrong. So that's why I just wanted to leverage switch. That's why I wanted to raise this. My cousin who lives in the US is a great evaluator. When she did this, when she's working in one of those companies, she finds some Afghani blood in her ancestry. Right? Right? So the thing is, with organizations like Future, if you really want to do this, you know that the ability to collect, collate, standardize, and get libraries will become like, the speed at which can be done, I think, is an opportunity for organizations like Future. That's all I want to say.
Rightly said, sir, like genomic sequencing involves a huge cost. Where data analytics definitely switch and other IT industry where they get pitching. I just want to understand other thing like is there any existing AI tools available in healthcare industry and how much they are solving the problems which we have discussed earlier. And can you please throw some light on UHI, which was the initiative taken by the government, and the structured data. So, is it possible to bring structured data to implement in all the hospitals? So, I want to start with Dr. Suresh.
I asked 47 questions. This is your combination. So let me just start with a couple of questions and read the remaining things because time also. So question number one, are we using AI tools? Definitely yes. So most of the people, I think I hear with the fascination from Dr. Kaushik that use tools to explain education. Okay? You have, say, brain cancer or breast cancer. These are your characters. And distribution persistence are the observed brain cancers. So because you have ABC, it is likely to happen in this frequency. My treatment is going to offer X amount of protection. So we are uncovering. Okay. If you want to say no, then you are freedom. But more than 50% compromise is unclear. If you want to say yes, then 3% extra side effects you have to wait. So these tools are free available. Like Predict Rest is something which means Life Map is what we are using it. You are using calculators we are using, Method we are using. I can just say like this 40 calculators which are using almost on a daily basis. So when it comes to AI, yes, it's like a vehicle. I mean, starting from the bicycle to the aeroplane, everything is a vehicle. So it's a very primitive form that we are using so far. But it definitely solves a lot of problems. In convincing the patients are getting more confidence. We feel that there are some. And one part of it is are we using children? To what extent is real life counseling? Definitely yes. Patient getting partially yes. Changing of treatment or playing new like to the new avenues still in the fancy is what I can sum up. The other question that you asked is standardization data. The beauty is like poetry, medicine is like poetry, the beauty is the art inside the body, right? So the art is we want answers. Then only we are well trained. We don't want any standardization. So that's the reason why you don't have standard data most of the times. And scientists want this way to build a beautiful and perfect block, and we make a bizarre brick sort of thing which doesn't fit in you, and you need to be really artistic to see and imagine how to just fit into that particular place. So the difference of whatever is outside this square actually is vital. Okay, that's what makes response or no response, side effect or no side effect. That has to build a new drug sort of thing. So this is where I think accepting the anomaly as it is and then putting it into the system will help for the better research. So let us not try to standardize the anomalies and then just make them sort of thing. So it is possible, but capture assets. No standardization. That's my opinion. We'll be open for the other comments.
Dr. Vamsi, can you please throw some light on what are the AI tools which are existing other than what Dr. Suresh was discussing?
Dr. Suresh was telling more about the
oncology side, yes.
We come from
okay.
So there are AI tools available. They are open source tools available, and they are there from last 10 to 15 years. We mature now enough, but they are not from India. They are from outside of India, but they are mature enough. But here, here we can take that information and we can build our own tools on the top of it. But again, the data we need to find our own data here. That's the main part of it. Everywhere, AI is very helpful for the doctors as well as for the patient. But the challenge here is how we present it to the doctor. If we present it in the wrong way, obviously the doctor's patient will be affected to the patient indirectly or directly. Okay, that's where I come across. I see that we want to maintain the best data of it, and we want to see that whatever the present AI tools, we don't want to reinvent the wheel every time. We want to put that tool and see that it is on the top of it.
Right.
That's what we do now.
That's right.
I'll talk about something very fundamental. So, we are going way ahead of where my comprehension is. I think specific to our country, even basic standardization of nomenclature is not there. Like you make a medical test in a diagnostic clinic A and go to hospital B, the codes we use are not the same. So the ability to know what happens. So I think there's a lot of initiatives, there are many initiatives across the world, ICDS, RxMan, so a lot of things are there, right? The national mission, the national health mission that was announced, trying to standardize a lot of things. So to me, I think unless at this basic level, everybody talks the same language and uses the same nomenclature. I'm not talking about force-fitting anomalies into, it's like, cutting the foot to fit the shoe. That's not what I am talking about. I'm talking about some level of consistency across the country so that it becomes easy for people to understand. And I think Dr. Gaurav Vaina is working on a health stack for the country. And I think when that happens, if I, as using that app, can decide I want to talk to a doctor in Varanasi because it's been something sitting in Udamandalam, UP or somewhere, and I want to share my reports, it should be in a nomenclature that is easy for them to understand and standardized. So I think that level of at least standardization is what the country needs, and that will significantly improve the quality of healthcare. That's my personal view.
I would deviate from the topic a little bit. I would not talk about patients and just healthcare per se. I would touch base to the pharma industry and drug discovery.
Okay.
So how do we do a lot of AI related integration in drug discovery? We can actually structurally have this enzyme pocket where we have compound defined to have innovation to happen, and so there have some effect on whatever it is, and then thereby reduce the disease for a patient. So we have all these technologies from a long time right now. We can have this active site pocket of an enzyme, can be computationally driven, can be seen on our computer, and then we can design the molecule to fit exactly into the pocket so that it does whatever it is supposed to do. So we have all those technologies before. Now we are using AI integrations, machine learning, so that even we don't need to give a lot of input to it to have a proper molecule. You can design a molecule without even having a single manual input to it. You can get a proper molecule that has all those features, whatever you want it to be. You need to have some solubility, you need to have some good adaptation, to have and then you need to have the activity for those molecules. You have multiple ways you can run AI in a drug discovery setup. That is just one part of it I'm talking about, but since that is the first part of the drug discovery setup, I'm just talking about that. You have multiple places where you can run it. But then how do you improve upon is a completely different side. There is a huge space for improvement. We can improve upon it.
Right, as you said, it is the early phase of drug discovery. So there are a lot of gray areas throughout the pharma sector which are still open for AI development to be happened here. Dr. Lakshmi.
Just sort of saying that, I don't know exactly the terminology, if this is AI or not, because we have a bunch of software. Now, if I'm doing the research, we are designing primers, we are going for cloning, we are going for all the cloning in eukaryotic prokaryotic things and in cutters. So these softwares are there for a very long time. So if this is AI, I'm not sure, but I wish there is the AI comes into play where it helps us more in the interpretation of all these things. As a very young researcher, if you push me back a couple of years, I look at something and I'm not sure what is happening in that particular screen. So imagine someone or on any basis, if it is actually suggesting this is what's the direction that you are going. So that would actually push us in a better space.
So just to add what is said, that's what most of the regulators are looking at. So they want AI to be explainable AI. Unless the AI tells why it is telling so, what it is telling, what is the basis of the recommendation or the conclusion, and how much is accurate and where it can fail. Unless it is very open, it cannot be used in things. So that level of regulations are in the process of being implemented across the globe, including. So we are just 18 months away, if things go at the pace at which it is going. The target is 2027, but we are ahead of that.
So that is what the question I was about to ask you, like is there any regulatory guidelines, but as for you, it is not still under the process of development?
In US, yes. In India, only part yes, not complete yes.
Okay. So whatever the tools which we are using currently, the tools which you have said also, are they validated with the patient data for verifying the outcome results and all?
So, okay. So I'll put it across. AI is very broadly used. Simple decision to these are also called AS. Definitely, I don't want giving the particular methodology of so, but this dichotomy, right? You have the age of what Okay, you ask the next question. Diabetes here or no? Then yes, hypertension here or no? Then you say your cardiac risk is. That's what the doctor thinks. That's what the A does. So this is simple. So this doesn't require, because these are all medically validated outcomes. They are just putting it into a user interface which is easy to interpret, easy to understand, and then some nice figures they are able to convince the patient. So this, if you consider this as a AI, they are right. If you are talking about more complicated things like a big score at week 32, a pregnant baby is likely to develop hypertension because of low hemoglobin and high sugar. No, they are not validated because it is based upon 1 lakh patients data pool behind, and they need to undergo very rigorous implementation checks.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Rossi.
On the regulatory side towards AI in India, they're coming up with a policy, but they're not fully regulated. The same in US and the other countries.
Who are those regulators who are governing these?
So India is Central Control Board, CSO, and if you take US,
AI is considered device prediction.
Okay, so I just want to understand, like there are so many problems. So there are a lot of investors and researchers are present here. So for them to take up some issues, what are the issues which can be readily taken up? So in your area, which are the hardest? So for them to study and generate some tools for them. Dr. Lakshmikant also, like he was working in agricultural industry. So,
Yes, ma'am. I got your question. There are a bunch of things that coming into my head. I just throw them the ideas. So, definitely one thing is, the first thing that I said is imaging or the AI diagnosis in veterinary field. That would be really helpful if it goes deep down. And the other thing is, the livestock sector is plagued with very frequent outbreaks of diseases. Like, there are FMD diseases. Recently, we are plagued by a disease called as lumpy skin disease. So whenever the animals get by this, there is serious loss of productivity and the economy. So, but there is a lot of epidemiological data. There is a lot of risk factors that we know. So, if only we can club them together and we can predict the next outbreak, or at least if that's a then we push forward. So that keeps the health sector ready on a livestock basis. And also, I was thinking on a very remote level, just like now we have pull bots and chat GPTs to write our theses and research articles. No shame in doing that. So we can also have chat bots for a farmer level. We not suggest treatment exactly, but even a life hack or I'm saying on a health hack for an animal care or a health hack for an agricultural care. I don't know if it is really there. On something on that front would actually access them or empower them in a better direction.
So one thing that is close to my heart is the pathology reading of the slides. I've given the talk on the AI and digital pathology. It's a very wide field and has progressed a lot in the recent years. However, I would still feel like image-based interpretation of, say, a cellular-based evaluation is far more developed than what a pathology-based evaluations are. Especially if you increase the complexity by stating both, like not just the HLE slides, but say, for example, day of my life, I do the same thing. I just go to Google, pick a part of a code, and then try to see if it can be implemented. I can't do it myself. I'm no coder for sure. So that's how we do it. I just modify a part of a code. So, however, for most in vitro diagnostics and things like that, it is pretty much developed. I don't see the same things for pathology-related slide readings and things like that. There are a few companies that are currently working on it right now, but I would want to see the I would want to see the field develop a lot more faster, because that is something which is of a tremendous application in terms of patient treatment and survival rates.
So, like you are an angel investor, like there are a lot of IT professionals are over here and researchers. Do you have any suggestion for them to pursue the career in AI, and what is your suggestion for them?
I think there is, first of all, AI is so broad-based. they can work in any industry. This panel is not limiting them to this sector, number one. However, if you are interested in this sector, I think, see, AI is a skill. You have to have passion for that industry also. Otherwise, you'll be an ordinary person in a team of extraordinary people. Your skill is cheap. AI is telling us that skill is cheap. Like many of the coders are, he doesn't even know the code and he's picking the code and editing it. So for me, for the people, what I would say is, if you're an entrepreneur, look for interesting problems that are low hanging. Don't look to shoot for the stars. There are enough small problems that can help people. He raised a very good point. If there is a hack for a farmer in a local language, even if it's a question answer brought about welfare of their animal, that is a phenomenal advantage for them, and that can be probably created in less than a year. If you collect all the data and you can get it. So there are enough problems to be solved. I would think that if you are an entrepreneur, look for problems that can have immediate return, because that gives you the high. If you are a researcher, of course, you'll do like what we're doing. That's a long-term thing that you will do. If you are just a practitioner of AI, have passion to be here. Otherwise, this is not the place for you. Because success rate here, is 1 in a million finding the right molecular combination and things like that. So it's not an easy thing. So you should have the passion for this industry.
Can you please throw some light here? Like, what are the tools we can take up? Do you have any solutions for since you are also one of the entrepreneurs? So
the most important part. So the most important part of the entrepreneur journey in healthcare or in AI is the patient. The most important part needs to be paid by the founder, because every day is a good day. It is a good day, it can be a party and everything, but it's not going to be every day a good day for us. So we have to be more patient in that, because the cycle time for the success in the healthcare or in the medical device platform or in AI. I'm talking about only on the healthcare side, not on the other side of the industry, but it takes a minimum of 3 to 5 years, depends on the use case. So, and as entrepreneurs, the first thing we need to keep in mind is what is the first thing going to be happening. We need to come from there to see that how we can bring that and take forward.
okay, yeah, thank you, sir.
One final word which I like is, ambition should not give you common sense when we are doing the research. The best answer is always find is one of the second year students taught us on the fall detection book. I still surprised a lot of equipments are there on how to detect fall in elderly. So if you have to define the fall, you have XYZ axis on the standard, they become 0. When you fall, it takes 5 to 6 seconds if you want to purposely lie down. But if it happens in 2 seconds, it means you fell down. So till that time is codest job or a medical device job. But the intelligence comes after that. So most of the vertebrates stand up. When they fall, that's a reflex. If that doesn't happen, that means I prevented one falls. And if I don't deliberately stand up because there may be slippery floor or dark surroundings, that means my brain sends a signal to my heart and it says, calm down, things are okay, but you don't stand up. That means HR gets sick. And if that is second prevention of the fall detection, then again comes the coder's job. Okay, if it is a significant one, send it to the ambulance and then I got a caregiver. So this is all common sense. So this is nothing like a great science behind it. So unless you are very vigilant about what things can commonly be solved rather than trying to develop a very fancy code, then you don't come up with a good product.
Thank you, sir. So I have a question for Nagendra, sir. Do we have scope we have already discussed, and what are the funding opportunities available for AI-based innovations?
I think there is always funding opportunity, in my opinion. So long as you are solving a real problem and you hit the nail on the head, ultimately the patient is God. The patient will vote with their feet, whether they vote with their pocket or not. Right? Even if you give treatment for free, they will not come to you unless they, so it's nothing to do with voting with the pocket, they vote with their feet. If you're solving a real problem, enough funding opportunities available. Most of the time, what I found in my experience over the last few years is, entrepreneurs fall in love with the idea and product and lose sight of practicalities. And that, I think, is something that they should be careful about. There are enough people who throw cold water on the money every time they go and that. But I think it's very important to keep that in mind. I would again and again say there are enough easy problems to solve before you take big problems to solve.
That is nice, sir. Thank you everyone for participating in this discussion. So we want to take few questions from the audience.
Please introduce yourself and which panelists have to answer also. That is our job is.
Hi, this is Bharat. I work for a software company called Nexus Technologies as a project manager. I just wanted to understand, like, I work in the healthcare domain as well, like clinical trials and other stuff. So, we know, like, recently, like, stem cells therapy, using stem cells, we can create artificial organs and all, right, in near future. So, as a doctor's view, like, where do we stand, like, on that thing? I know that.
I think that is for me. Yeah. So the answer is very simple. Not in the near future, right? Stem cells can create a beautifully functioning cardiac muscle. But if this part of the heart is contracting and this is not, so they are not in sync, then output doesn't come. So creating the organ is easy, making it functional is easy, integrating with the existing system is impossible. Wherever it happened by accident, not by design. So accepting for the organs like blood, where they can function in isolation, no stem cells have worked. So stem cell transplant work only in the organs like bone marrow transplant, where RBC, one RBC needed coordinated with other RBC to carry oxygen, or very gross things like bone, where you just have to wear the weight. So accepting that wherever it requires complex coordination, it always do. So something have to happen, miracle, for the stem cells to come into the real time.
Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, hi. This is Hardik from Sama. So currently we are also working in clinical trials. But I want to just check the different side of AI. I have read one article. It's called like behavior change. The doctors were using AI tools for diagnosis and all. And later they realized, like after 2 years, they were performing the nuclear scans were reduced from let's say by it was around 40 to 50%. They reduced scan because they were predict the AI tool what is predicting. So in that case, they have misdiagnosed certain patients. So like how to do, like in our regular life also, if you see, right, we can't do like basic multiplication also because we used to calculator and all. So like when like all this AI will come, so how like human intelligence will be downgraded and the human touch in the care and all. So how we can deal with that also?
Yeah, I know. So the thing is, AI according to me is not artificial, but it is automated intelligence. As long as you try to enhance your decision making for the better patient care, that's okay. If you are trying to replace it, definitely a big no so far. So please don't attempt that, and that's what will happen. What you told. If I trust the AI that this patient is unlikely to have a recurrence, and if I stop doing this scan, if the patient comes with a disease bad, then I'm the saddest person, so as the patient's family.
So we don't deviate from the conventional wisdom and conventional treatment. At the same time, we try to improve on how to interpret the scan better rather than how to avoid this scan. I hope I answered your question.
Hello sir, I am Manu from Biomedical Engineering. So I want to ask this question. Sir, as you mentioned, as per regulatory thing, AI is considered as a device. We have to look at it, like, is it good or bad? Like, why not as a tool or something like protocol? Because
Tool and protocol doesn't go. See, the problem in India, I'm not an expert, but I definitely would like to see some of the inputs from the patent lawyers. In India, the code is not patentable unless it is in a device. Whereas in US and other countries, it is patentable. So, because the device is patentable, it is regulated, so the code has to sit on device. So, it is more of a law that is making it to happen rather than why it is a device. It is otherwise. So, the same law controls both device and the code. So, that's what is the logic why it is put under the devices side. So, because more of a regulations in terms of law and enforceability and IP that is making it to happen in this side. So, I don't see any reason, but probably some of the regulators can help you to answer in the right way. But whatever I told, I do attend few of the CSO meetings, so that's what I gave.
I have one more question, like about the standardization. So if we can look this into two ways, like the practices which would be followed, like the protocols where collecting the data would be like two different ways. As you mentioned, it would not be standardized for all. But can we? There is a possibility of collecting the data in the standardized method. Like
that's what I is telling. That's what even I completely agree. Right. I have to measure the speed of a car either miles per hour or kilometers per hour. Unless I do that particular basic things, I can't keep on modifying my speed motors or odometers. Right? So you start with basic standardization, and on top of it, you modify it and improvise. So basic standardization, no brainer. It has to be done. No choice.
So if we are not standardizing the practices and still we are standardizing the data collection process, so how would it would affect the data quality?
Right. So the practice cannot be standardized. It has to be individualized to the patient. That's where the AI is trying to solve the problem. How can they personalize the AI to you?
See, basically, the outcome decides the practice, effectiveness of practice. The moment you have standardized data and you also are able to collect the outcomes, then you will be able to know that this particular set of practices, right, are good or not good. Right? That's why age-old home remedies still work at home. Because of this historical data, we know that if you get cold, you take some turmeric, something will work, right? So practice is different, right? But if you can measure the outcomes, in fact, that's what a lot of people around the world are doing now, whether they are governments or regulatory bodies, to say there is this movement called pay for performance that's happening, right? So this is nothing about practices, and I agree with him totally. Practice is based on experience. It is also based on a moment of inspiration, right? Because, correct, right? So it is so important that you can't take that.
Yeah, I have a question to Dr. Lakshmikant. I mean, on my side, so we are seeing how AI is really helping the human scientists and how it is treating in a better way or diagnosing in a better way. But coming to the animals, I hope you might have seen in many cases, there could be times where it might be hard for you to diagnose or treatment the animals, right? So, is there any way that maybe this technology or this AI could help this diagnosis, could help this in treatment to the animals? Are there any situations that where you have thought maybe this technology or this AI might have helped these animals in diagnosing faster or treatment them faster?
I got the question, but to even answer that, I've never used AI to say AI would have been better here. So that is the area where we are in so far. But to address it in a different dimension, I've given a lecture in the morning where I said antimicrobial resistance is a serious threat from our particular livestock industry. Many times I had a very small clinical, how would I say, career. So I felt like whenever I am prescribing an antibiotic, there are only a couple of things that are clicking in my head. I wish we had AI where it suggests an alternative, where it can actually bring in data that this particular your area is actually having more resistance for this organism. Let us prescribe something else, or you can actually let me give it a 3-4 options. Like these are all there in the market. The first thing that always hits into our head is the only thing that we write. So I wish that kind of a support, if it really comes, it would have made a game-changing difference to tackle AMR is what I always felt, and I'm still feeling.
Just want to make a suggestion which is probably not good from my point as what I'm wearing. Let's not think everything is AI solvable or we need AI to solve. Because for a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Right? There are maybe you need a shoehorn, maybe you need a wrench, you need something. AI is just one of the many things that we have. So I just suggest that collectively that AI is just one of the many things we use, and it definitely is a lot of potential, no doubt.
Hello, good afternoon, panel. This is Dr. Santosh Ishugama from VVIT NASA Purvale. I'm assistant professor here. And sir, my question is for that people are working in majority of the students are working in Raspberry Pi and Arduino boards. They are work with physical sensors, which is internally Chinese supplied. So we are not getting proper result. And even in my doctorate, when I pursuing my PhD, so we are working in that domain also. So we are facing the challenges with the physical hardware sensors. So because that sensor is substandard sensor, so that's why we are not getting the proper result. And if we are comparing the Chinese sensors or the low cost sensors like BP monitor, which is cost around 1500, so it is almost more than 20 to 30% of the result sometimes we get. And even if we are talking about the rural areas, so majority of the practitioners who are they are not basically MBBS, so they are GMP practitioners or some kind of supportive staff. So they are using the same medical devices which cost not more than 2000 rupees for the diagnosis purpose, and the result is affected more than 20 to 30% around. So for that, in Indian perspective, if you want to try something in hardware perspective, so from where we get, because internally I try from many of sources, but I can't get a proper sensors which is affiliated from any of the companies, Siemens or Philips, or they are not actually supplied in the Indian market, even in Asian region also. So for that, what we can do?
Let me divide the question into two. One, you're talking about the sensor. Okay, right. And the second is you're talking about the result.
Yes.
Right. So sensors, yeah. India doesn't have a capability to manufacture or design sensors.
Definitely, it will take almost 1 decade.
Yeah, more than a decade.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So sensors, what you are procuring from maybe from the China or from locally, are more of made in China products.
It is all from the China supply.
So here we need to, the selection of sensors is also very important. So we have to see that we've made it. Okay, where the company is from. Okay, if you take a company from US, let me say a maximum integration or analog devices. Yeah, if you call analog devices, you're procuring sensors from analog devices. They provide what is the standard they are maintaining. If you take the data sheet, you go through each and every point in the data sheet, you have a detailed explanation how the sensor works and in which conditions it works. That's also very important for a prototyping or a POC to be tested. Yes, that's one part. And the second part, when you're doing a POC or a prototype, it's almost like a raw development. I don't say it's a finished development. So in the scale, I mean, in the percentage of 100, the development is only 15%. If you take a POC or a prototype 1 or prototype 2. Yes. So after MVP, I'm talking about minimum viable product. The MVP reaches by 30%. Right? After that, 30% reach 100% as a marketable product. That's where you can see that it's not going to be easy to say that, okay, I've done a POC or
I've done a prototype 1 or 2, and I'm ready with the minimum viable product, and I can take it to the market. It's not going to work out like that. It takes lot of time and energy to see that from 30% to 100%. It takes a lot of time. Exactly, that's one. And coming to the second part of your question on achieving the accuracies and all the maturity of the product development also is required to get that accuracy level. You have to fine tune the device in such a way that when you're going to one region to collect the data and doing the testing or the validation, you have to fine tune it in a more the fine tuning is the most important part to get a marketable product.
I just want to add one thing. Don't underestimate the affordability of the medical practitioner in the village, because I see is constantly trying to bring the cost of the product down and pay for quality instead. I am sure the incremental cost will more than help the practitioner to get more clients. So I don't see that as an issue. I think he raises a good points. Cost of product is only 20-30% in the overall scheme of things. So I think if you're guiding them, sir, please make sure that they have the first prototype of the best quality. Then we can choose to how to do the value versus price and all that. Otherwise, we'll end up building subpar products.
Sir, actually, sometimes we try to communicate with the Philips and Siemens also, but actually, for the starting prototype, our card size is very limited for the getting the sensor. So that's why they are not interested to win with a business. That's the main problem I face.
Okay, thank you for the question.
Okay,
we have one-to-one interaction with the panel speakers. So I thank every one of you. It is a really interesting discussion we had with you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Praveen, for giving this opportunity for us.
That was a very informative session. Lots of questions. I know there are more questions, so I would request that the audience please talk to the panelists and speakers after the conclusion. We now, we've had two really wonderful days. We started on a high yesterday. We started with an anthem, and I remember yesterday what we had 2,500 people filling this hall. Hundreds of people standing outside. We had this wonderful anthem that we all sang together. Then we had the keynotes and all. And I now have the privilege, and I'm extremely honored, to be welcoming Jayesh Ranjan Garu. Thank you for honoring our request and coming over here. Jayesh Ranjan Garu is a special chief secretary. He's also been involved with whatever progress we have seen over the last 10 years in IT and all. Jayesh had a huge role to play in all of this stuff. He has been a huge support of what we've been doing. Thank you, sir. Thank you for obliging our request and coming over here. May I now request Jayesh Garu to deliver the closing keynote, and then we will proceed to the valedictory after Jayesh Garu's closing keynote. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to convey my appreciation for the organizers of AI Days, Swecha team in particular, and everyone else who have supported them in organizing this wonderful event. Even though I was not here yesterday, but I heard very good things about the day-long deliberations, also the interaction that happened today. And I feel very happy that the ecosystem in Hyderabad, in Telangana, supporting AI is maturing very rapidly. We are already thinking of developing local language models, Telugu language models, Telugu language products, solutions, etc. So some of the things that we are doing here in Hyderabad, I particularly feel very happy and very proud about it. Some of you would be aware that while the world over, AI has been in existence for decades, but the real thrust came in just about 7 to 8 years ago. And gradually when people in India started taking note of AI, Telangana was amongst the first few states to decide a very focused strategy on how AI has to be developed, AI has to be used. Some of you will recall that in the year 2020, we decided to celebrate that year, commemorate that year rather,
as the year of AI. And 2020, all of us go back and recall, was a very tough year. We had COVID, lockdown, all kinds of emergencies. And obviously, if you have planned something, not knowing that these kind of calamities are going to befall you, your plans do get derailed in some ways. But again, I feel very proud that almost 80% of what we had planned for that year, we were able to accomplish. Partly virtually, partly through in-person activities. But nevertheless, the beginning was very good. And of course, when we started something on 1st of January 2020, lots of preparatory work happened in the preceding months in 2019. And one of the good things, something which we have to recognize, national government has commended us for that particular activity. We brought out a framework to support AI. What is the responsibility of the government to promote AI? What is the responsibility of other stakeholders? How do we bring all the stakeholders together? And I would encourage all of you I'm sure have deep interest in AI, to go to our website and read this framework. While it was prepared in 2019, later 4 years approximately have gone by, but it is still very, very relevant. And I don't think there is anything that we have missed. Possibly, generative AI was not that relevant at that point in time. But other than that, everything else that one needs to do to promote AI, to adopt AI very, very rapidly, all these features are provided in that framework. So, just to give a very quick overview of that framework. The most important thing, and I briefly overheard some of the panelists of the earlier session. I came a little late, unfortunately. One of the key things about doing anything related to AI relates to training your algorithm. And of course, writing the algorithm, developing the algorithm for sure. But you require lots of data, even prepare that algorithm, train that algorithm. So as a government, one of the first decisions that we took is that we will take upon ourselves as a key responsibility to make data available. And I think lots of efforts have happened in that direction. I feel very proud and satisfied to share with you. We have decided as a government that our priority for AI will be agriculture. Agriculture is one domain. I'm sure all of you know this, that it supports the largest number of rural livelihoods. And I'm very happy that you are also choosing to focus on AI for society, because this is exactly something which is our priority also. AI should work for everyone. Just as we use the thing AI for society, the similar thing that we use is AI for everyone. Making AI work for everyone. That is the thing that we work on. So obviously, everyone is the society, and if you look at which sector, which livelihood supports the largest percentage of that society, it is agriculture today. And to facilitate development of AI-enabled solutions for agriculture, we have set up, and as I said, we are the first state in the country. Now we are showing the way to the national government also. We have set up an agriculture data exchange. So all possible data sets that one would require to develop a solution related to agriculture is available on that exchange. But like any other exchange, like the stock exchange or any other kind of data exchange, there are norms on how do you participate in that exchange. So sometimes we have heard, we have seen also, these are very true kind of episodes, in which large scale misuse of data has happened. Lots of even reputed tech companies have allowed the huge access to data that they have to be passed on for commercial interests to third parties have misused it. 2 years ago, when the elections in the US were happening, so the huge debate and investigation on how personal data has been misused to kind of motivate or nudge people to vote in the favor of a particular party by reputed technology platforms, etc. So there is always that risk and always that concern that the more access you provide to data, some element of misuse will happen, some element of extracting commercial benefit without passing any benefit to the people whose data you are using. That kind of scenario will happen. So we have created an agriculture data exchange, keeping in mind all these possibilities and creating very robust internal system of checks and balances. It is not just commercial misuse, it is also privacy, it is confidentiality, it is consent. So that is one very important responsibility. And as I said, while we have created data exchange for agriculture, we are absolutely open to provide or make accessible other data sets also, which people will be using in other domains. So as I just found out, we are panel was focused on healthcare. Again, lots of data is available. Lots of mobility data is available with the government and so on and so forth. So making data available is a very big responsibility that we have taken, and many of the startups who are connected with us, who participate in our program, they know how easy it is in Telangana to access any of these data. Along with providing access to data is a related issue or a related question of high performance computing. See, when you are given trillions and trillions of bits of data, many times we feel that the compute capacity that we have access to in our simple PCs, etc., that is not enough. And that is a big barrier that we face, because high performance compute also comes at a very high cost. And again, for young innovators, young entrepreneurs, startups, students, it literally becomes impossible. Even if you have a bright idea, you will be thwarted because you won't have compute access. So again, this is something which we have done for our kind of ecosystem partners. We have been able to access high performance compute facility, more than 15,000 GPUs through CDAC and NVIDIA at literally pro prices. And we are now in discussions with another provider, a company called Wata. We have decided to initially set it up in Delhi, but we are convincing them to set it up in Hyderabad as well. So once these facilities are available, already as I said, the CDAC and NVIDIA facility is already available. Many of our startups, I don't have precise information, but recently when I had checked out this, I was told that more than 20 startups in Hyderabad have used that facility, the low cost compute facility that we have arranged for them especially. And once this Toyota facility is also developed in Hyderabad, and these are some of the challenges that people face. So actually, right algorithms, these are the challenges that they face. Accessibility to big data, clean data, interoperable data, access to high performance compute facilities. So as a government, we are making these things. Another very important thing, of course, as we notice now, AI is becoming more and more and more pervasive. Literally, there is no sphere of our lives which cannot potentially be improved or made more efficient using AI. But there are the people who have that talent to run AI kind of programs. So again, skilling is a very important responsibility, and it's a nice coincidence that we are having this conference in an academic institution, premier academic institution like the JNTU, which is of course offering high quality courses on AI, ML, etc. But again, many of you would be aware, if I see that many of you are students, there are a range of courses available. In fact, AI is not just PhD level skills, writing very logical algorithms. AI skills start from absolutely low end, even to clean the data, data cleansing, data organizing, data annotation, making the data interoperable. Even that is a task which has to be done before PhD kind of people take over that. So again, who does that kind of work? For that, you don't have very high skills. But I have seen that people with as low as 10th pass qualifications or 12th pass qualifications can do that job. And to do that kind of a job, you don't have to be in an expensive office building in Hyderabad. You can be somewhere else and do this work. So again, we have been very successful in motivating some companies to set up basic AI level of skills in smaller towns. So again, I'm happy to share with you that some of this kind of the work is going on in Warangal, some of this kind of work is going on in Nizamabad, something in even smaller towns, etc. So we have made a good beginning to show that the basic